anyone who has spent any amount of time with me could probably tell you that I love ball pythons. In any conversation with someone, it's only a matter of time before my snake obsession comes up. Not always brought up by me, but yeah, it mostly is. What can I say? These wee noodles have completely captured my heart. But why? Humans are supposed to be terrified of snakes. They are one of the most common phobias in the world, even among people who don't live in countries where snakes are native. Hopefully, I'll be able to explain to you why I love them so much in a way that you'll be able to understand, but I apologise in advance for gushing about these little boop noodles. Sorry about that. It might happen again. I also hope to clear up some misunderstandings and misinformation about snakes, including ball pythons. Oh, in case you're new here, hiya, I'm Baileys, a furry and proud snake mammy. I have one scaly son, whose name is Bukul Ada. It means long boy in Irish. He is a juvenile ball python, born in September of 2019. I love him beyond all reason, and I would love to have more scaly children. Bukul is from abroad, as you could probably guess, since I live in the Republic of Ireland. Snakes aren't exactly native here. No thanks to St. Patrick, he's a lying charlatan. That's a different topic. He was born in a faraway land of County Antrim in Northern Ireland. He's very exotic. His ancestry has been captive bred for a good few generations now, but if you go back far enough, you'll eventually find his ancestral home to be sub-Saharan Africa. That's where you'll find ball pythons in the wild today. The reason why they're called ball pythons is because of how they react when they're scared or nervous. They ball up and hide their head. This is very, very cute in my opinion. Ball python isn't the only name they go by. Their Latin name is Python regis, which means royal python. They earned this regal name because of their relationship with humans in Africa. Royal pythons are sacred to a few cultures and are often used as status symbols by higher-ups and royalty as living jewellery. The snakes also act as pest control in many areas and were encouraged to take up residence in farms to keep mice and rats away, while also posing no real threat to humans or livestock. This long-standing relationship with humans is kind of why I consider royal/ball pythons to be domesticated in a way, by reptile standards anyway. Okay, so back to why I love these animals so much. Number 1. Look at them! They are so cute! From the wee puppy mouth to their squishy hard boobs to their chubby doop body. Everything about them is cute to me. They are the perfect being. Even their dumb little legs. Yes, you heard me. Most pythons still technically have legs. Even my Bukul has adorable little toes. They use these leftover legs in courtship, giving their desired partner little scratches along the tail and belly to show that they are ready to mate and not a threat. That's so adorable. Number 2. Their temperament. These snakes are so chill. They move relatively slowly compared to other common pet snakes like corns or rat snakes, and are chunkier, making them so easy and fun to handle. They rarely try to bite, if ever, and mostly hiss, hide their head, or mock strike at you if they ever feel threatened. It is often said that this is the kind of animal that you can just sit down and watch TV with for an hour or so, and they just sit in your lap or explore around you. Each ball python, of course, has their own personality, so not all snake temperaments are the same. Bukul is on the more energetic and confident side of the ball python personality spectrum. He loves exploring. He will try to get into every nook and cranny of any room he's exploring, and he loves to climb. Unfortunately, this often leads to him getting into places he shouldn't, and he gets stuck. He has had to be rescued twice now from getting stuck behind things in my room. He is extremely friendly and has only ever struck at me once after I spooked him as a baby when I was changing his water dish. I barely felt it, he didn't even use his teeth. It was more of a headbutt to tell me to go away. Even if he did use his teeth, it probably wouldn't have drawn blood, which brings me to my next point. Number 3. They are not dangerous. A fully grown adult Bukul will be about 3 foot long. If he was a female, then about 5 foot long. Big, but not dangerously big. Their bite as an adult isn't dangerous to humans either, no worse than a cat claw swipe. They are not venomous, instead they are constrictors. Even though they're constrictors, ball pythons are not big or strong enough to be able to choke out a person. Even if they were strong enough, they wouldn't bother. We are too big for them to eat and also well equipped to detangle them with our mighty ape hands. Number 4. They are super rewarding to look after. Earning the trust of a snake is so fulfilling. Bukul comes over to me and feels at ease when he interacts with me. He is very dumb, but in his little brain, the connection between me and being safe has been made. In snake terms, I'd qualify that as a form of affection or love. Now, It may not be as deep or complex as the love I feel for him, but for a snake, feeling safe and at ease around a big scary ape that could easily eat him at any moment is a pretty impressive thing to feel. He is a happy and healthy snake, and it's nice to look after him and see him thrive. Speaking of care, number 5. Ball pythons are easy to look after. Buko lives in a plastic tub under my bed. He has a water bowl, a hot and a cold side, 2 hides, and a stick with some plastic leaves for cover. He eats once a week and only needs cleaning up after every few days. His food is probably the biggest downside to keeping snakes, but it comes with looking after any carnivorous pet. His is packaged a little less nicely than most cat or dog foods, however. Rodents. Whole rodents, no less. Thankfully, they are frozen rodents that are humanely killed and not rodents that he has to kill himself. I defrost and warm up a rat once a week and he eats like a champ. Loves food. Rats are cute, I know. But so are cows and other livestock people eat, so I don't see too much of a difference, but most people do. Ball pythons are notoriously finicky with food, some going on food strikes that can last over a year. But I have yet to experience Buko saying no to food. That doesn't mean he won't ever refuse food. I'm probably going to have to throw out a frozen thawed rat at some point, and that bothers me. But again, if you look at food waste in general around pets and even humans, it's kind of hypocritical to pick on that. Number 6. Ball pythons shed all in one go every few weeks. As someone who looks after fluffy pets, shed fur is a nightmare. All I own is now forever part cat hair, thanks to Squeak, my lovely little cat. Our border collie that died a few years ago still has fur dotted around the place and probably around the world at this point. Nightmare for people with allergies. Ball pythons are hypoallergenic, with easy demanded shedding needs. Absolutely ideal in my opinion. Number 7. Ball python genetics. This is a big one for me. Ball pythons have some of the most amazing diversity in pattern and colour when it comes to reptiles. You like purple? Done. Yellow? Hell yeah. Black, white, gold, silver, crazy pattern, no pattern. We got 'em. All of this diversity is down to their incredible genetics. I find them fascinating from both the visual and genetics perspective. There are countless known gene complexes and mutations that influence colour and pattern, and the way these genes interact with each other and other complexes is amazing. These colours, patterns and genes are called morphs in the reptile world. Buko is not a normal or wild coloured ball python. He carries 2 genes that work together to influence how he looks. These genes are called leopard and Mojave. Mojave is probably my favourite single gene mutation in the ball python world, so I was delighted when my son came out of the egg carrying it, along with one of my other favourites, being leopard. I could probably write a whole thesis on ball python genetics and how intricate yet replicable they are. I would love to someday breed ball pythons and explore their genetics myself, while bringing more beautiful babies into the world to share with people so they too can fall in love with this remarkable reptile. Not gonna lie, I could talk about why I love ball pythons forever. I could list a load more points, but I'll restrain myself for now. Now, I want to talk about misconceptions and myths about snakes and snakes as pets. I don't know where this first one originated from, but it's one of those stories everyone seems to have heard or brings up to me as a warning when they find out that I own a snake. Enjoy this dramatic retelling. There was a person who owned a constrictor snake. It started off relatively small, but its species would grow to be pretty big, well over 6 foot. They would let it roam around their home as exercise and enrichment. Every now and again, the snake would climb onto the bed and snuggle up to them. They thought this was endearing and affectionate, and continued to allow this behaviour as the snake grew. They would sometimes fall asleep next to their pet and wake up to the snake fully stretched out next to them. They shrugged off this behaviour as a morning stretch or something. Little did they realise what the sly reptile was up to. One night, the person noticed the snake was now longer than they were tall as the pet stretched out. The snake then looked at them and moved in for what was normally a harmless hug. But this time it was different. The snake was later found alone in the apartment with their owner, nowhere to be found, while the snake looked awfully swollen. Fearing the worst, the snake was seized and examined, and they eventually found their owner deep within the belly of the snake. The snake was actually stretching out fully next to them each night to see if they were big enough to eat them yet. How evil. Yeah, none of this is true, no matter how many people have heard it. Snakes don't exhibit this behaviour, level of planning or thought when it comes to prey size. The only behaviour I can think of that is in any way similar is when the prey is already dead and the snake lines themselves upright to ensure that they eat it as efficiently and safely as possible. Large constrictors have killed people, don't get me wrong, but most of that is due to human error, antagonising, or negligence. A snake isn't a malicious, scheming being bent on killing all that come too close, despite what the stories might make you think. On to the next one. Here's an interesting fact. Snakes do have bones. You may be surprised to hear this, but I have been asked on many occasions if Buccal has bones. I guess their worm-like body doesn't make you think they have a skeleton, but they actually have quite a robust one. In a similar vein to bones, snake jaws don't dislocate when they eat. It's actually more of an extra hinge in their jaw that allows it to open further. They also have unfused mandibles and extra stretchy tendons, giving them way more flexibility in their jaws than any other vertebrate. A common misconception in the ball python keeping world is that they don't need enrichment. Many breeders keep their snakes in completely dark, shallow tubs with only bedding and a water bowl. This is justified by the fact that ball pythons are nocturnal and live mostly in burrows in the wild, waiting for food to come to them. These tubs are often not or just barely long enough for the snake to fully stretch out in, as snakes tend to like tight, dark spaces. The only time they see light is when food is dropped in, cleaning time, to be shown to a customer, or when moving to breeding tubs. Many breeders say that their snakes are healthy and therefore happy. I somewhat disagree. Health is of course very important for snake well-being, but I'd say enrichment is also vital for the well-being of animals in general, including snakes. In experiments, snakes that have enough space and enrichment show better health and good behavioural indicators of well-being compared to those in confined plain enclosures. Adding a hide or a window to the outside could be the difference between a snake on hunger strike or not. I don't like to imagine Buccal living in a dark, empty tub, but I know many ball pythons, just like him, spend their whole lives like that. Thankfully, attitudes about enclosure setups for snakes seems to be shifting towards a more enriched type. Animal welfare is very important to me and many others in the ball python community, so it's nice to see people acknowledging that while snakes do like confined dark spaces, they also like having the option to explore a more open space and stretch out fully in. A funny one I saw in a thread online once was about taking your pet ball python on picnics. Most of it was just your standard travel tub prep and keeping an eye on it while it explores the outside world, but one bit caught my eye in particular. Feeding your ball python hot dog pieces to keep it happy. Please don't try this. A ball python won't eat a hot dog, no matter how much you try to convince it that it's the perfect shape and made of some kind of meat. It will be fine without food for a few hours or days, so unless you're planning a 2-week-long picnic with your snakes, you don't need to bring food for them. A lot of animal activist groups like PETA are vehemently against keeping pets of any kind, including reptiles. They like to spread misinformation about all reptiles in the pet trade being wild caught, but that's not true for most, especially ball pythons. You'd have to actually go looking for wild caught ball pythons. Almost every single one available in the market is captive bred and has been for generations. They are considered wild animals, but I beg to differ. Sure, a pet ball python, if released back into the wild, might survive just fine, but so would almost any domestic or pet animal. You'd hardly call a pet dog or cat wild animals because a good few of them would make it in the wilderness. Buccal can barely kill an already dead rat, and he doesn't see people, or cats thanks to Squeak, as major threats, and both could harm or kill him in the wild. He would also stick out a bit, so I doubt he would make it far in Africa. Ball pythons are probably one of the most domesticated reptiles out there. Just to be clear, I am strongly against having wild-caught animals available in the pet trade, but to smear all pet reptiles as taken from the wild is untrue. Time to wrap this up. If I had more money, I would have so many more ball pythons. And a fursuit, but this video is about my snake obsession and not the others. I hope that I've sufficiently explained why I love them so much and maybe changed your view on pet snakes for the better. Leave any questions or funny stuff you've heard about snakes in the comments and I'll do my best to respond to them. Thank you so much for listening to me ramble on about ball pythons. I hope you enjoyed it. See you in the next video.